I can't mimic voices for love or money. I'm completely hopeless at it. I was a really bad actor at school, and
In a stunning development that has sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace, Tom Parker Bowles, son of Queen Camilla, has been sentenced in a case cloaked in unprecedented secrecy. The ruling, delivered behind closed doors and mysteriously absent from public court records, has resulted in his immediate removal from public life. Palace officials have imposed an extraordinary information blackout, but our sources have uncovered the disturbing reality behind his sudden disappearance. What could the Queen's son have done to warrant such severe consequences? And why has the royal family gone to extreme lengths to keep it hidden? Stay tuned, because this revelation will forever change how you view the British monarchy. The Secret Tribunal. On what appeared to be an ordinary Tuesday morning, Tom Parker Bowles arrived at a nondescript government building in London's diplomatic quarter. Unlike the high-profile court appearances of celebrities or politicians, there were no press photographers, no waiting crowds, just an unmarked entrance guarded by individuals who carried no visible identification, but moved with unmistakable military precision. Dressed in a conservative gray suit with no distinctive features, Tom was escorted through a private entrance and vanished from public view. A food critic and author who had carefully balanced his royal connections with an independent career, his expression betrayed no emotion as the doors closed behind him. Inside awaited what one source described as a tribunal rather than a court. The small windowless room contained only essential personnel. A panel of 3 judges with specialized security clearance, legal representatives who identified themselves only by last name, and a defense team that our sources claim had been appointed rather than selected by Tom himself. This wasn't a legal proceeding as the public would understand it, revealed a source with connections to diplomatic security protocols. This was risk containment operating under the thinnest veneer of judicial process. The charges, while never formally announced, allegedly centered around unauthorized communications with foreign entities, specifically, individuals connected to both international media organizations and foreign intelligence services. According to our sources, Tom had been under surveillance for months after certain patterns of communication raised red flags within royal security circles. It began with his legitimate food-writing contacts, explained a former colleague who requested anonymity. But somewhere along the line, he began exchanging information that went far beyond culinary matters. Information about palace operations, security protocols, and most damaging of all, private communications between senior royals regarding matters of state. What made this case particularly sensitive was the nature of the information involved. Unlike typical royal scandals centered around personal indiscretions, the material Tom allegedly shared touched on the monarchy's relationship with government, the constitutional gray area where royal influence intersects with political power. During the 7-hour proceeding, Tom reportedly maintained the composed demeanor that had characterized his public life. He spoke only when directly addressed by the tribunal, neither confirming nor denying specific allegations. Those present described his bearing as resigned rather than defiant, the demeanor of someone who understood the institutional machinery he faced. The ruling, when delivered late that afternoon, was extraordinary in both scope and severity. While not termed imprisonment in any conventional sense, the sentence mandated Tom's immediate sequestration at an undisclosed location, with no access to communication devices, publication platforms, or unapproved visitors. The official terminology, protective isolation for reasons of national security, barely concealed the reality: permanent removal from public life. As Tom was escorted from the room through a secure exit, he reportedly made a single statement to the senior security official overseeing the operation. "Tell my mother I understand the necessity." This phrase, cryptic to those unfamiliar with royal dynamics, has been interpreted by insiders as acknowledgement of the monarchy's ultimate priority: institutional survival above individual interests, even when family is involved. Within hours, he had been transported from London via military aircraft, his destination known only to a handful of officials with the highest security clearances. The Containment Operation. The palace's official statement, released the following morning, made no reference to any proceedings. It simply announced that Tom Parker Bowles would be stepping back from public duties indefinitely to address private health matters and requested privacy. The brevity and vagueness only intensified speculation among royal observers. Behind the scenes, an elaborate operation was already underway, not just to manage Tom's physical removal, but to systematically erase evidence of his activities. Teams with specialized training in digital forensics simultaneously accessed his London apartment, office, and country home. Computers were seized, mobile devices confiscated, and physical documents removed. But the operation extended far beyond simple evidence gathering. This wasn't just about collecting materials, revealed a source with knowledge of security protocols. This was about eliminating all digital footprints, scrubbing communication records, and creating an alternative narrative about his absence that could withstand public scrutiny. Most telling was the treatment of his professional workspace. According to witnesses, the office where Tom wrote his food columns and books was not simply searched, but methodically dismantled. Digital storage devices were removed. Reference materials were cataloged and transported to secure facilities. Even seemingly innocuous items like notebooks and appointment calendars were treated as sensitive materials requiring special handling. The thoroughness suggested not just concern about what he might have already shared, but fear about what channels of communication he might have established that remained undiscovered. There was serious concern about dead drops, scheduled information releases, or material already positioned with publishers overseas, explained a former intelligence officer familiar with such operations. When someone with his connections commits to sharing sensitive information, the ripple effects can continue long after they've been contained. This fear drove the next phase of the operation, identifying and neutralizing potential associates. Editors who had worked with Tom found themselves subject to unusual scrutiny. Publishers reported subtle pressure to delay or cancel projects involving him. The pattern revealed a coordinated effort to isolate anyone who might have served as his conduit to the wider world. Digital traces began disappearing as well. His social media accounts were either suspended or suddenly managed with notably different content and tone. Archives of television appearances where he had discussed royal connections became mysteriously unavailable on streaming platforms. Even photographs in which he appeared at royal-adjacent events were quietly removed from official sources and media libraries. Most concerning to those tracking the situation was the treatment of his published work. His most recent food columns disappeared from publication archives. Bookstores reported receiving requests to return unsold copies of his latest cookbook for a corrected edition that never arrived. The systematic removal of his professional output suggested concerns that extended beyond personal indiscretion to something embedded in his public work. The concern wasn't just what he knew, but how he might have encoded that knowledge in his published writing, suggested a literary analyst who had studied similar cases of writers under government scrutiny in other countries. Food writing provides remarkable cover for transmitting information through seemingly innocent references. Ingredients can be code names. Preparation techniques can signify methods of operation. Restaurant locations can indicate meeting points. The royal family fractures. Behind palace walls, Tom's sentence reportedly created the most significant family crisis since Prince Andrew's fall from grace. Queen Camilla, caught between maternal instinct and institutional duty, was described by insiders as outwardly stoic, but inwardly devastated. According to sources familiar with palace operations, she was informed of the action against her son only hours before it occurred, presented not as a request for her approval, but as a security necessity already in motion. Camilla was effectively told, rather than consulted, said one palace source. This wasn't a mother being asked about her son's fate. This was a queen being briefed on an operation affecting the monarchy's security. King Charles, meanwhile, allegedly maintained a more detached position. Sources suggest he viewed Tom's actions through an institutional lens rather than a personal one, as a security breach requiring containment rather than a family matter requiring compassion. This perspective has reportedly created tension in the royal marriage, with moments of strained silence replacing their usually warm rapport. The king sees monarchy as his life's purpose, explained a longtime royal advisor. Threats to its stability override personal considerations, even when family is involved. Camilla hasn't yet developed that institutional callousness that royal life eventually demands. Prince William has reportedly supported the action, viewing it as regrettable but necessary for protecting the monarchy's future. According to palace insiders, he was among those briefed on specific communications intercepted from Tom and recognized their potential to undermine public confidence in royal neutrality on political matters, a cornerstone of the modern monarchy's survival. Most surprisingly, Princess Anne, known for her dedication to duty and protocol, has allegedly questioned the handling of the situation. Sources claim she has expressed concern about the precedent of removing a royal-adjacent figure through extrajudicial means, suggesting that, once we operate outside the law, we undermine the very system we claim to uphold. For Tom's sister, Laura Lopes, the situation has allegedly triggered profound distress. Unlike her brother, Laura has maintained an intensely private life despite her royal connections. Sources close to her family report that she has made repeated requests to contact her brother, all of which have been denied citing security protocols. Laura is essentially being told that any attempt to reach her brother could implicate her as well, revealed one source. It's a cruel but effective method of ensuring family compliance, the implicit threat that concern could be interpreted as complicity. For Queen Camilla herself, the situation has created an impossible position. Sources describe a woman torn between institutional obligation and maternal anguish, permitted no direct communication with her son since the sentencing. All information about his welfare and circumstances comes through official briefings provided by the same security apparatus that engineered his removal. In public, she performs flawlessly, noted one senior household member. In private, the strain shows in small ways. Moments of distraction, unusual irritability, the occasional canceled engagement citing mild indisposition. She's grieving while having to pretend nothing significant has happened.
Diana has in fact been killed in that car accident.
In a shocking twist, the royal family has dropped a bombshell that could shake centuries-old traditions. Whispers are already swirling around Buckingham Palace as insiders tease a once-in-a-lifetime revelation that nobody saw coming. Could this monumental development rewrite royal protocols and forever alter the course of the monarchy? Join us as we dive into the intrigue surrounding this historic announcement. Princess Diana's Letter and Secrets. A jaw-dropping revelation from Buckingham Palace has left royal watchers reeling. The rediscovery of a letter from Princess Diana herself. Buried for decades and now thrust into the spotlight, it hints at a clandestine secret that could challenge the very pillars of royal tradition. While full details remain obscured, sources claim that this remarkable document touches on Diana's deepest fears, her relentless emotional struggles and anxieties about powerful figures who might have targeted her. With the royal family's surprise disclosure, people everywhere are once again scrutinizing Diana's life through a brand new lens. Even during her lifetime, Diana's personal letters were known for their raw honesty. Cartons of private notes once kept under lock and key now appear to confirm the intensity of her anguish and her suspicion that she was at risk. In the months before her tragic death, Diana openly worried about being subjected to a staged car crash, maintaining that such an incident might be orchestrated by those threatened by her activism and relentless media presence. Deemed paranoid by some and prophetic by others, these fears echoed through her final days, cutting a stark contrast to her graceful public persona. Shadows of these revelations first surfaced when her trusted butler, Paul Burrell, faced legal obstacles for safeguarding Diana's belongings. Although he was accused of theft, Queen Elizabeth II's intervention clarified that he had, in fact, been entrusted with many of Diana's personal effects, including letters. Some believe that the newly revealed letter may substantiate Diana's dread of sinister plots designed to silence her. It's no wonder that the royal family's recent announcement has ignited a flurry of speculation, inspiring questions about what else might be hidden behind palace walls. Meanwhile, Diana's humanitarian legacy resonates more powerfully than ever. The same woman who braved minefields in Angola and shattered prejudices surrounding HIV/AIDS was, behind the scenes, wrestling with heartbreak, fear, and betrayal. These latest documents suggest that she harbored confidences so sensitive that, if exposed earlier, they could have shaken the monarchy to its foundation. Now, with the royal family's surprising public acknowledgement of this mysterious letter, the world is eager to see if its contents will validate long-swirling conspiracy theories, or simply add another tragic layer to Diana's story. Diana and Charles's relationship. In a stunning development, the royal family just announced a shocking discovery linked to Princess Diana, one that has reignited fascination with her complicated marriage to Prince Charles. After years of speculation and rumors, the new information has people revisiting every detail of their relationship, from its fairy tale beginning to the heartbreak that ultimately defined it. Diana Spencer met Charles through her older sister, Lady Sarah Spencer, in the late 1970s. At the time, Charles was fresh from a brief courtship with Sarah, which ended amid candid remarks about not not wishing to marry him. Little did anyone suspect that this chance introduction would blossom into one of the most famous romances in royal history. Despite being just 19 when their relationship began, Diana quickly discovered the challenges of loving a man still ensnared by the memory of his ex-girlfriend, Camilla Parker Bowles. Her private world soon filled with doubts. In one television interview, Charles's response to whether he truly loved Diana, whatever love means, only deepened her unease and sense of insecurity. On July 29, 1981, their wedding at St. Paul's Cathedral dazzled a global audience of over 750 million. Yet beneath the veil of jubilation, Diana sensed an emotional distance between them. She suspected that Camilla lingered in Charles's heart. Over time, these feelings hardened into despair, particularly once they were married, and Diana realized how real that emotional bond remained. The strains within their marriage didn't stay hidden for long. Diana, feeling increasingly lonely and overlooked, shockingly threw herself down the stairs while pregnant, desperate for Charles's attention. His lukewarm response to her distress left her feeling more isolated than ever. That sense of betrayal intensified when Diana came to believe that there were 3 of us in the marriage. Learning to navigate her royal duties offered some respite. Diana's warmth endeared her to millions worldwide, who admired her compassion for the sick and vulnerable. Yet even as she won hearts through her humanitarian work, she battled emotional turmoil behind palace walls. Her BBC Panorama interview in 1995 made it plain she felt alone, overshadowed, and anxious about Camilla's unspoken role in Charles's life. While the fairy tale ceremony had promised happily ever after, reality brought heartbreak. By 1992, Diana and Charles separated, officially divorcing 4 years later. The public spectacle of their split confirmed the depth of their marital strife. Amid the pressures of royal life, Diana's longing for emotional security proved impossible to fulfill. The wedding of the century. The wedding of the century, Princess Diana and Prince Charles's 1981 nuptials, dazzled an international audience, and now the royal family's astonishing new announcement has once again cast fresh light on that iconic day. Nearly 750 million people across the globe tuned in to watch Diana, a demure 19-year-old, pledge her vows to the heir to the British throne. The broadcast was filled with pageantry and pomp, horse-drawn carriages, gleaming military uniforms, and one of the most memorable wedding gowns ever seen. Even decades later, that billowing ivory silk dress, with its 25-foot train, remains an enduring symbol of fairy tale romance. Yet behind the scenes, Diana privately wrestled with doubts. She had long sensed that Charles's heart belonged elsewhere, that he'd never truly let go of his past with Camilla Parker Bowles. Despite this misgiving, the pressure of royal duty and her own inexperience compelled her to push these fears aside. On the surface, the wedding was a perfect spectacle of Union Jack bunting, trumpets, and adoring crowds. World leaders, celebrities, and aristocrats from around the globe filled St. Paul's Cathedral, a testament to the significance of what the public believed to be a joyous match. The newly released royal documents, however, suggest there was more tension behind the pomp and circumstance than previously known. Insiders hint that letters written by Diana around this time reveal a young bride bracing herself against a wave of uncertainty. Far from the storybook ceremony presented to the world, she felt overshadowed by Charles's lingering affection for Camilla. Rumors now claim that Diana's notes detail apprehension about exactly how welcome she was within palace walls, and the emotional toll she feared that day would take on her. Still, none of these private worries managed to dull Diana's remarkable poise as she walked down the aisle. Her infectious warmth shone through the ceremonial grandeur, earning her instant worldwide admiration. Long after the ceremony concluded, the honeymoon headlines continued to feed the relentless tabloids, all enthralled by the image of a shy kindergarten teacher transformed into a global icon overnight. For many, the wedding of the century stands as a bittersweet memory of what might have been. The stirring orchestras, the sea of well-wishers on London streets, and the hushed awe that accompanied the couple's vows still captivate royal watchers everywhere. Now, as the newly announced revelations rekindle curiosity about the wedding's unspoken drama, observers can't help but wonder whether this epic-making event was destined to foreshadow the stormy years that lay ahead. Struggles in the marriage. A bombshell announcement from the royal family has once again thrown the spotlight on Princess Diana's tumultuous life, particularly the painful struggles of her marriage to Prince Charles. For decades, the public has been mesmerized by their grand wedding and the fairy tale image that followed. Yet beneath the glittering veneer, Diana faced profound emotional battles that shaped her journey and ultimately laid bare the cracks in one of history's most scrutinized unions. From the start, Diana was plagued with insecurities about Charles's ongoing affection for his ex-girlfriend, Camilla Parker Bowles. Even in the early days of their courtship, references to Camilla would hang in the air, leaving Diana feeling dwarfed by her husband's emotional history. The mismatch of their ages, she was 19, he 32, only highlighted a divide in priorities. While she hoped for an affectionate match, Charles seemed conflicted, famously uttering whatever love means when asked if he truly loved Diana. As newlyweds, they momentarily played the roles expected of them, appearing at formal engagements with bright smiles that masked Diana's growing sense of isolation. Behind palace doors, Diana increasingly longed for recognition and reassurance from Charles. This longing peaked when she was pregnant with Prince William, and in a moment of despair, threw herself down the stairs in an attempt to provoke the empathy she felt her husband withheld. Instead of finding the compassion she desperately needed, she encountered a chilling indifference. Over time, Diana's anguish grew. She spoke of feeling like an outsider trapped within ancient protocols and watchful eyes. Her greatest heartbreak, she later confessed in a landmark BBC Panorama interview, was Charles's enduring closeness to Camilla. That searing admission, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," became an iconic snapshot of Diana's struggles. It conveyed not only the pain of perceived betrayal, but the loneliness of a young woman thrust into the global spotlight with few genuine allies. Seeking solace, Diana channeled her energy into humanitarian causes, forging meaningful connections with the public at every turn. Yet even as the world hailed her as the people's princess, she returned each night to a private sphere dominated by tension and suspicion, unable to heal what she saw as a broken bond. Ultimately, these unresolved issues, combined with constant media intrusion, proved insurmountable. In 1992, Diana and Charles announced their separation, finalizing their divorce 4 years later. Now, with this startling new royal family disclosure, the world is eager to learn whether Diana left behind fresh insights into those turbulent years of marriage. For so long, her struggles were wrapped in rumors and official narratives. Diana's famous BBC Panorama interview, Princess Diana's 1995 BBC Panorama interview, remains one of the most shocking and revealing moments in modern royal history. And now, the royal family's recent bombshell announcement has renewed interest in that explosive broadcast. At the time, it felt like the entire world stopped to hear Diana break her silence on her troubled marriage and emotional battles behind palace doors. She spoke candidly, radiating a mixture of vulnerability and strength that captivated millions of viewers who were unaccustomed to such naked honesty from a member of the royal household. In the interview, Diana addressed her unhappiness, telling the now infamous story of feeling trapped in a marriage overshadowed by her husband's ongoing connection to Camilla Parker Bowles. Her most quoted line, "There were 3 of us in this marriage," instantly etched itself into history. It confirmed lingering suspicions that Prince Charles's affections lay elsewhere, casting Diana as a lonely figure caught in an arrangement that lacked the comfort and stability she had hoped for. Yet what truly stunned the public was Diana's admission of her own struggles, including incidents of self-harm and severe emotional distress. At one point, she recounted throwing herself down the stairs while pregnant, desperate for Charles's attention. The heartbreak in her voice spoke volumes, amplifying the sense that her pleas for empathy had gone largely unheard. Far from the cheerful, confident princess glimpsed in official photographs, Diana emerged as a woman grappling with relentless media pressure, royal protocol, and a profound sense of isolation. Critics were quick to brand her as manipulative or attention-seeking, but her supporters saw a brave soul refusing to be silenced any longer. The interview not only redefined her public image, but also marked a watershed moment for the royal family. No longer confined by centuries of unspoken codes, Diana unapologetically peeled back the curtain. She displayed the raw reality of royal life, not merely a glittering spectacle of tiaras and galas, but also a claustrophobic environment where personal pain too often festered in private shadows. Today, speculation abounds that the royal family's latest startling announcement involves rediscovered commentary or documentation surrounding Diana's panorama revelations. Could there be more details, hidden for decades, that amplify her words about betrayal and heartbreak? This possibility has jolted public curiosity all over again. Echoes of that interview, Diana's luminous eyes, her measured tone, and her stark confessions remain just as resonant now, decades later. Whatever emerges next, that 1995 broadcast will forever be remembered as the moment Diana found her voice and shattered the myth of the unassailable monarchy. Humanitarian efforts. Princess Diana's acts of kindness and courage remain emblematic of a royal figure who chose empathy over tradition, and now, with the royal family's unexpected announcement, her humanitarian efforts are back in the global discourse. Even as she endured personal struggles, feeling overshadowed in her marriage and hounded by relentless press, Diana channeled her pain into caring for the most vulnerable. Her bravery shone through in 1987, when fear and confusion about HIV/AIDS were rampant. Diana famously shook hands with an AIDS patient without gloves, an extraordinary gesture that shattered misconceptions about the virus's transmission. That single act sent a powerful message. Compassion and knowledge could overcome public hysteria. It also aligned her with a marginalized community desperate for understanding and support, demonstrating that real change could be sparked by empathy at the highest levels of society. 10 years later, in 1997, She made global headlines again by walking through an active minefield in Angola to highlight the perils of landmines. Her willingness to face danger in order to champion a critical cause inspired worldwide admiration. This brave move helped spur international efforts toward banning these hidden threats, culminating in the Ottawa Treaty, which outlawed the use of landmines. Now, as the royal family hints at new insights involving Diana, the world is reminded of what made her truly extraordinary. Her compassion transcended palace protocols. Diana's tragic death. A new royal announcement has reignited interest in one of the most heartbreaking chapters in modern history, the tragic death of Princess Diana. The shock of her passing on August 31, 1997, was felt around the world. Yet it's the circumstances and secrets still emerging all these years later that continue to stir debate. According to fresh details, Diana may have harbored greater fears than the public ever knew, fears that could recast our understanding of what really happened in that fateful tunnel in Paris. On the surface, her fatal car crash appeared to be the ultimate result of a high-speed chase by paparazzi, intent on capturing intimate snapshots as she and her companion, Dodi Fayed, sought a moment of peace away from relentless flashing cameras. Their driver, Henri Paul, was later found to have been intoxicated, and an investigation concluded that a lethal mix of speeding, alcohol, and lack of seatbelt use led to the collision, killing Diana, Dodi, and Henri Paul almost instantly. Only Diana's bodyguard survived, though with serious injuries. The entire world reeled from the news, unified in shock and grief. Yet over the years, whispers of conspiracy refused to fade. Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, would later claim she penned a letter expressing her deep concern that someone might orchestrate a car accident to silence her. Initially dismissed as rumor, this unsettling notion found renewed life in the context of the endless swirl of paparazzi, political tensions, and the oddities surrounding that night's final moments. When Queen Elizabeth II intervened to stop legal charges against Burrell after he was found to be in possession of Diana's belongings, it only added another layer of complexity to her already tragic story. Questions surrounding Diana's death have never quite settled. While official inquiries consistently determined that the crash was an accident, the people's princess had become so beloved and so entwined in the hearts of millions that her death felt almost too cruel to be explained by a simple twist of fate. Could the newly announced revelations shine a brighter light on records or letters from that time? Might they confirm or debunk the theories that powerful forces sought to curb Diana's influence on humanitarian causes and her willingness to speak out? For many, Diana's legacy of compassion, exemplified by her work with HIV/AIDS patients and her courageous stand against landmines, demonstrated a fearless altruism, one that may have garnered as many admirers as critics. She was the vibrant spirit who redefined what it meant to be royal, and in doing so, may have stirred forces beyond her control. Now, with the royal family's startling disclosure, we find ourselves once again pondering the unanswered questions that surround Diana's tragic death, wondering if this time we might finally learn the truth she feared would remain hidden. Paul Burrell's role. Paul Burrell's name has been thrust back into the spotlight with the royal family's latest announcement, prompting renewed interest in his extraordinary connection to Princess Diana. Originally a young footman at Buckingham Palace, Burrell steadily earned the trust of senior royals, eventually becoming Diana's butler and personal assistant. He witnessed her remarkable charitable work, her tension-filled marriage to Prince Charles, and her heart-wrenching struggles with loneliness. Over time, the two formed a bond that far surpassed the conventional role of employee and employer. His devotion did not end with her tragic passing in 1997. Following Diana's death, Burrell emerged as a fervent guardian of her memory, claiming that she had entrusted him with safeguarding personal belongings and letters. This commitment drew him into the harsh glare of media and legal scrutiny when, in 2002, he stood accused of stealing over 30,000 items from her estate. The resulting court case riveted the public's attention and threatened to tarnish his reputation. In a dramatic twist, Queen Elizabeth II confirmed she knew Burrell had been keeping Diana's possessions, and the charges against him were dropped. Burrell's subsequent revelations, however, proved equally explosive. He insisted Diana harbored fears of a staged car crash meant to silence her, sparking lingering questions about the circumstances that led to her fatal accident. Critics dismissed him as an opportunist, profiteering from her life and death through interviews and books. Supporters argued he was fulfilling her wish to share truths she felt would otherwise remain buried. Today, as rumors swirl of newly discovered documents from Diana's final years, Burrell's role is being re-examined. Was he a loyal confidant preserving her legacy, or an eager storyteller capitalizing on her fame? Whatever fresh details may emerge, one fact is undeniable. Paul Burrell had unprecedented access to Diana's inner world, making him central to the ongoing intrigue surrounding her extraordinary life. Conspiracy theories and Diana's fears. Princess Diana's life and untimely death have long been caught in a web of rumors and speculation, and the royal family's latest bombshell announcement has brought those intense debates back to center stage. Many of these theories stem stem from Diana's own letters, in which she expressed fears that powerful figures would orchestrate a staged car accident to silence her. Although official inquiries blamed her tragic passing in 1997 on speeding, an intoxicated driver, and paparazzi in pursuit, conspiracy theorists point to Diana's personal anxieties as evidence that something more sinister might have been afoot. Paul Burrell, Diana's former butler and close confidant, claimed that she confided these concerns to him privately. According to Burrell, Diana believed her activism on global issues and her willingness to challenge royal protocol could have ruffled powerful feathers. It didn't help that she felt isolated by some members of the royal family and openly struggled with the relentless attention from the press. Burrell's later revelations about a letter in which Diana purportedly warned of a plot to cause a serious car accident reignited the public's fascination with her death. Critics of conspiracy theories argue that the facts point to an unfortunate yet straightforward tragedy. On that fateful night, Diana and Dodi Fayed attempted to slip past the paparazzi by departing from the Ritz Hotel's back entrance. Their driver, Henri Paul, was found to be thrice over the legal alcohol limit and driving at breakneck speed, an unsafe choice that proved deadly. Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, was the only survivor, and while some wonder if he might hold keys to a hidden truth, official investigations concluded that the accident was, in fact, caused by reckless driving, nothing more. Yet uncertainty lingers. The intense global mourning that followed Diana's death elevated her to a near mythical status, fueling speculation that fate alone could not have taken her life so abruptly. Her humanitarian work, specifically her outspoken involvement in controversial causes such as anti-landmine campaigns, had placed her squarely on the world stage. Some conspiracy theorists believe that these altruistic actions and the influence she began to wield posed a threat to entrenched interests, prompting a plot to remove her. Whether one believes in foul play or in the simpler explanation of a tragic accident, Diana's fears remain a significant chapter in her story. She was vocal in her letters about real concerns for her safety, and her vulnerability in sharing these thoughts with trusted confidants endears her to admirers decades after her passing. With the royal family's recent revelations stirring speculation anew, it's clear that conversations about Diana's life and her lingering apprehensions are far from over. Diana's legacy. Princess Diana's legacy continues to captivate, especially now in light of the royal family's latest announcement hinting at revelations no one expected. She came onto the world stage as a shy teenager, marrying the future king, yet emerged as a transformative force whose compassion and authenticity redefined what it meant to be royal. To millions, she wasn't just a figure in a tiara, she was the people's princess, tirelessly championing causes often overlooked by those in power. Behind the grandeur of the 1981 wedding of the century, Diana's personal struggles foreshadowed her determination to create genuine human connections. Growing up, she had lived a relatively quiet life, but found herself thrust into an archaic system bound by complex rules and centuries-old traditions. Despite her own crises, feeling overshadowed by Prince Charles's attachment to Camilla Parker Bowles and wrestling with bouts of loneliness, Diana channeled her vulnerabilities into empathy for others. This approach led her to groundbreaking humanitarian efforts, such as supporting HIV/AIDS patients at a time when misinformation and fear prevailed. Her famous gesture of shaking hands without gloves broke taboos and inspired a worldwide shift in attitudes. Diana's fearlessness only grew, culminating in her historic walk through an active minefield in Angola in 1997. That courageous act brought a crucial issue to global attention, propelling the movement to ban landmines. Through these public acts of compassion, Diana brought monarchy closer to the people by showing that a royal figure could be warm, relatable, and unafraid of diving into pressing social causes. Tragically, her story ended far too soon on a Paris roadway, leaving behind unanswered questions about who might have sought to undermine her. Even in death, her spirit continues to resonate. The sudden disclosure from the royal family has reignited interest. Might Diana have left behind secrets that deepen our understanding of her passions and fears? Regardless of new revelations, Diana's extraordinary empathy, quick smile, and willingness to stand with the marginalized remain her defining gifts to the world. In many ways, her legacy outshines any lingering intrigue, reminding us that an open heart can inspire sweeping change. Across time and distance, people remember Diana not just for her title, but for how she illuminated social injustices and strove to mend them, proving that even amid royal pomp, it is empathy that truly reigns supreme.
Thursday marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in a car crash inside a Paris tunnel.
For years, people have wondered what really happened to Princess Diana. Some believed it was just a tragic accident, but others thought there was a secret behind it. Now, something unbelievable has happened. Queen Camilla has been sentenced for Diana's death. How did it come to this? What will happen to the royal family now? The truth has finally come out, and nothing will ever be the same again. How Camilla became a suspect. For years, people have whispered, argued, and even shouted about Camilla's role in Diana's tragic story. Was she really just the other woman? Or was there something more? Let's go back to where it all started. Camilla and Charles go way back, before Diana was even in the picture. They met in the early 1970s and fell in love, but for one reason or another, Charles didn't marry her. Instead, he ended up with Diana, a young, beautiful, and innocent woman who seemed perfect for the role of a princess. But there was a problem. Charles never really got over Camilla. Even after marrying Diana, Charles kept Camilla close. Too close. Diana wasn't stupid. She saw what was happening. Imagine being married to a man who secretly loves someone else. That's what Diana had to live with. And she didn't just stay silent about it. In 1995, she sat down for one of the most famous interviews in history. Looking straight at the camera, she said the words that would be remembered forever. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Boom. Just like that, the world knew the truth. Diana was suffering, and Camilla was the reason. People turned against Camilla instantly. Even after Diana's tragic death in 1997, Camilla was still seen as the villain. When she finally married Charles in 2005, many people refused to accept her. Some still blame her for Diana's pain, and now, with new evidence coming to light, some believe she played a role in Diana's death itself. But how did she go from being a disliked woman to a murder suspect? Let's talk about it. New evidence that sparked investigation. For years, the case of Diana's death was considered closed. The official story was that she died in a tragic car crash in Paris, caused by a drunk driver trying to escape the paparazzi. But was that really all there was to it? Recently, something changed. New documents were leaked. Documents that, according to insiders, were never meant to be seen by the public. These papers hinted at a bigger plot behind Diana's death, something much darker than an accident. But that's not all. Some former royal staff members, who had stayed quiet for decades, finally spoke up. One witness, whose name hasn't been revealed yet for security reasons, claimed that Diana feared for her life before she died. She allegedly told her closest friends that she believed someone was planning to get rid of her. And guess what? She even wrote a letter predicting that she would die in a car crash. That's chilling, isn't it? But here's where Camilla comes in. According to these leaked documents and witness accounts, there were people within the royal circle who saw Diana as a problem. She was too popular, too powerful, and, most importantly, she wasn't afraid to speak the truth. This made her dangerous, especially to those who wanted Charles and Camilla to eventually be together without any obstacles. Now think about it. If you were Camilla and you knew your path to becoming queen was being blocked by a woman the whole world adored, how would you feel? Some believe Camilla didn't just wait for fate to remove Diana. She helped make it happen. But is that really true? Why the case was reopened? For years, people who questioned Diana's death were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. But when so many people believe something, can they all be wrong? The pressure to reopen the case had been growing for a long time. With the new evidence coming to light, authorities had no choice but to take another look. The big question was, if Diana's death wasn't an accident, then who was behind it? And if there was a plan to eliminate her, how deep did it go? Investigators started pulling old records, re-examining statements, and questioning people who had stayed silent for years. One thing became clear. There were too many loose ends in Diana's death. Too many strange coincidences. And the more they dug, the more Camilla's name started popping up. At first, many thought this was crazy. Why would Camilla of all people be involved? But then, when the leaked documents suggested that Diana had warned about a plot against her, people started listening. Diana had mentioned a woman close to Charles, who might have had a reason to see her gone. Could she have been talking about Camilla? The legal pressure leading to Camilla's involvement. As investigators gathered more evidence, the royal family stayed silent. They didn't want to comment on rumors. But behind palace walls, something was happening. Lawyers were being called. Meetings were being held. There was a real fear that this case could turn into the biggest royal scandal in history. And when the police officially announced they were looking into Camilla as a person of interest, the world went crazy. Imagine that. A queen being investigated for the murder of another queen. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it was really happening. Camilla, the woman who had spent decades trying to win over the British public, was now at the center of a criminal case. Some sources claim that when she first heard about the investigation, she laughed it off. She thought it was ridiculous. But as days went by and more evidence came out, she stopped laughing. She reportedly became paranoid, avoiding public events and staying behind palace doors as much as possible. And then came the breaking point. One of the former royal staff members who had been close to Diana was brought in for questioning. What they said has not been fully revealed yet, but insiders claim it was something huge, something that directly linked Camilla to the case. Whatever it was enough to push investigators to take the next step. Charges and key accusations. The prosecution wasted no time. They made it clear from the very beginning. They believed Camilla was involved in Diana's death. But how? What proof did they have? First, they talked about motive. Why would Camilla want Diana gone? Well, everyone knows about the love triangle. Diana herself had said it. There were 3 of us in this marriage. Camilla was always there in the background, waiting. But was she just waiting, or did she take matters into her own hands? Then came the real bombshell. The prosecution claimed they had evidence linking Camilla to people who might have had a hand in Diana's accident. They brought up secret phone calls, hidden meetings, and even documents that suggested Camilla knew more than she ever admitted. But here's the real kicker. The prosecution hinted that Camilla may have been working with powerful people. People with influence, money, and the ability to make things disappear. Could this mean the royal family itself was involved? Was there a hidden network protecting her all these years? The courtroom was silent. People were hanging on to every word. Was Camilla just a woman in love, or was she part of something much darker? Camilla's defense. Then it was time for Camilla's lawyers to speak. They had one job, to convince everyone that Camilla was innocent. But how do you fight against years of rumors, conspiracy theories, and a public that never really liked you in the first place? Camilla sat still, her face pale, as her lawyers argued that she had nothing to do with Diana's death. They said it was absurd. They pointed out that Camilla wasn't even in the country when Diana died. How could she have planned something so big? Then they played the sympathy card. Camilla was a victim too, they said. The public had hated her for years. She had suffered. She had been called names, blamed for ruining Charles and Diana's marriage, and now she was being accused of something even worse. They painted her as a woman who had simply fallen in love with the wrong man at the wrong time. And then came the biggest moment. Did Camilla herself speak? Did she take the stand? Yes, she did. She stood up, hands shaking slightly, and looked straight at the jury. Her voice cracked as she spoke. I did not kill Diana. I had nothing to do with her death. But then came the twist. She didn't stop there. She turned the blame elsewhere. She suggested that if there was a conspiracy, then she wasn't the one pulling the strings. Someone else was. But who? Was she hinting at the royal family? The government? Someone even bigger? People whispered among themselves. What did she mean? Was she telling the truth? Or was she just trying to save herself? Shocking testimonies. And then, the trial took another shocking turn. Witnesses started coming forward. Some of them had never spoken before. Others had been ignored for years. But now they had the world's attention. One former royal staff member claimed they had seen strange meetings between Camilla and people linked to British intelligence. They had overheard conversations about Diana being a problem. A driver who worked for the royal family revealed something even darker. He claimed that the night Diana died, there was already talk inside the palace about what had happened, before the news had even broken. How could they have known so soon? Unless they had expected it? And then came the biggest shock of all. A former security officer, someone who had worked closely with Charles and Camilla, took the stand. He looked nervous, wiping sweat from his forehead. He took a deep breath and then said it. "I was told to keep quiet. I was told Diana's accident wasn't an accident." Gasps filled the courtroom. Even Camilla's lawyers looked shaken. Who told him to keep quiet? Why? The judge called for order, but the damage was done. The jury had heard everything. The world had heard everything. Final verdict and sentencing. The courtroom waited. Hours passed. People outside were glued to their screens. What would happen? Would Camilla walk free? Or would this be the day justice was finally served? Then, the jury returned. The room held its breath. The judge asked the foreman to read the verdict. Guilty. The word echoed through the room. Camilla blinked as if she hadn't heard it. Guilty? Number that couldn't be right. The judge began to speak. He talked about the seriousness of the crime, the need for justice, and then finally he gave the sentence. Life in prison. The room exploded. Some people cheered, others gasped. Reporters rushed outside to break the news. Queen Camilla, now just Camilla Parker Bowles again, had been sentenced to life. And then came her reaction. At first, she sat frozen. Her face turned red, her hands clenched into fists. Then, suddenly, she stood up and shouted, "This is a setup! I didn't do anything." She turned to Charles, who was sitting nearby, his face pale and expressionless. "Say something. Tell them." But Charles didn't move. He just stared ahead, like he wasn't really there. Camilla tried again. She begged, she screamed, but no one listened. The guards moved in, grabbing her arms. She fought, but it was no use. They led her away, her voice still echoing through the room. And just like that, it was over. But was it? Because as Camilla was taken out, the questions still remained. Was she really the mastermind? Or was she just a piece in a much bigger game? And if she was, then who was still out there, hiding in the shadows? So, what happens next? Camilla has just been sentenced. The entire world is in shock, and now the big question is, where does she go from here? Camilla's fate. Now, let's be real. Camilla is not the kind of person to just sit back and say, "Oh well, I guess I'll go to prison now." She has spent decades climbing her way to the top. She went from being the most hated woman in Britain to the queen of the country. Do you really think she will give up that easily? Camilla still has powerful friends, expensive lawyers, and, most importantly, King Charles himself. He has spent years defending her, making the public accept her, and trying to erase the memory of Princess Diana. Would he just stand there and let her rot in jail? Absolutely not. So, of course, the first thing Camilla will do is appeal. Her lawyers will argue that the trial was unfair, that the evidence wasn't strong enough, and that she was targeted because of who she is. They might even say that the case was nothing but a conspiracy to bring down the monarchy. But here's the problem. Appeals take time. A long, long time. While the process is happening, Camilla will have to wait. And no, she won't be waiting in her fancy palace. She will be in prison. Well, Camilla won't be thrown into just any regular prison. She won't be sitting in a tiny cell with 10 other women. She is still the queen consort, and whether people like it or not, she has special status. This means she will likely be sent to a high-security prison for VIPs, where she will have her own cell, some level of protection, and probably more comfort than an average prisoner. One possible location is HMP Bronzefield, the UK's most high-profile women's prison. It has housed some of the most dangerous female criminals in Britain, but it also has private cells for high-profile inmates. Camilla would likely have limited contact with other prisoners for safety reasons, but make no mistake, prison is still prison. There are no royal servants, no fancy dinners, no designer dresses, just a small room, a metal bed, and a life completely controlled by prison rules. Can you imagine Camilla waking up to the sound of prison guards, eating simple food off a plastic tray, and having no access to luxury? Would she even be able to survive it? And then there's another question. How will the public react to seeing a queen in prison? Would people feel bad for her? Or would they celebrate, saying justice has finally been served for Diana? The monarchy's future. Now, here's where things take a dark turn for the royal family. Because this isn't just about Camilla. This is about King Charles, too. Think about it. His wife has just been convicted for being involved in the death of Princess Diana. His entire reputation is now hanging by a thread. People are furious. The media is going crazy. Protests are breaking out in the streets. And the big question on everyone's mind is, can King Charles stay on the throne after this? For years, there were already people who didn't want Charles to be king. Many believed the throne should have gone straight to Prince William after Queen Elizabeth's death. Charles was never as popular as his mother, and now, with this scandal, his rule is in serious danger. The British monarchy survives on public support. If the people lose faith, the system starts to fall apart. And let's be honest, after this trial, how many people will still support him? The Queen was loved because she stayed away from scandals. Charles, on the other hand, is now right in the middle of one of the biggest royal scandals of all time. Some experts believe that he will try to hold on to the throne, hoping the public will eventually move on. But others think he might be forced to step down, either because of public pressure, or even because of a decision made within the royal family itself. And if Charles steps down, who takes over? Prince William. Will this scandal lead to the end of the monarchy? Now, this is the biggest question of them all. Could this be the final nail in the coffin for the British royal family? We have to remember, the monarchy has already been struggling. Younger generations are losing interest. Many people feel like the royal family is outdated, unnecessary, and a waste of taxpayer money. But this could push things over the edge. For decades, people have suspected that Diana's death wasn't an accident. Now, with Camilla's sentencing, many will see this as proof that something dark has always been lurking within the royal family. And when the public loses trust, it's very hard to get it back. Imagine this: millions of people demanding the monarchy be abolished, protests outside Buckingham Palace, governments debating whether to cut off funding to the royals. Could we really see the end of the monarchy in our lifetime? One thing is for sure. After this scandal, the royal family will never be the same again. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Camilla deserves this sentence? Will Charles survive the backlash, or is his reign doomed? And most importantly, do you believe this could be the beginning of the end for the British royal family? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you don't want to miss the next update on this insane royal scandal, subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when I drop a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.